Pep, welcome to the show, man. I'm excited to talk to you. I miss hanging out with you. So really, for everyone here, it's Pep Laja of CXL and many other companies. We're going to get into this. Pep, thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I've
Uh,
been missing you. Like, yeah, as you said, I haven't seen you for like, I don't know, a long time.
yeah, too long. We live in the same city, and I think we hang out every so often. But anyways, for the folks that don't know you, tell folks like what's your business? What's your businesses?
Yeah, so I guess I'm best known for being the founder of CXL, which started off as a conversion optimization agency and a blog. Now that agency is spun off into a new brand called Spiro, and CXL is an e-learning business teaching all courses and training programs on all things digital marketing. And then there's a new SaaS company called Wynter that I started a year ago, which is about messaging, product messaging.
Love it, love it. So you're a man of many businesses like myself. So what I wanted to talk to you about, and I've been dying to ask you this over beer, because I've done this too, is like the transition from an agency consulting and selling time for money and other value for money to e-learning and SaaS and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. So let's just dive into that. So obviously, like, well, first and foremost, how long did that transition take from like when you had an agency to when you launched something that was not the agency?
Yeah. Well, when I launched the agency, I did not have any this. I had no other plans. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to do agency only for this long, and then I'm going to do something else. I was set out to build an agency.
Yeah.
Over time, though, I got bored of being a consultant. So even though I was a CEO, I was also the star consultant. I was like the best known brand, in because in consulting, people want to work with a person, not a brand. Like
A
maybe in
business. Yep.
PwC or McKinsey's case, it's a brand, but typically they want, I want Rand Fishkin to do SEO for me, type of thing.
Yeah.
So people wanted to work with me, but before starting this agency, I had been a freelance consultant for a long time. So it, I just got tired of being a consultant. And it took me like 5 years of doing the conversion optimization agency. 5 years until I was like, man, I just can't explain the same shit all over again.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I hear you, man. I think there's a half life, and agency business is such a good business to start, right? Like any, it's a good way to learn entrepreneurship with an easy
Totally.
product because you are the product,
And you
right?
see the kitchen side of so many businesses, what they're struggling with and how some businesses have made something work, because you run into weird ass businesses. And like some founders are not the smartest people, but they've got a really successful business. They're doing something right, and you can learn from anyone. And in our case, we quickly went up market because if you're in an agency catering to small businesses that pay $500, $1,000 for something, you won't have a lot of profit margin. So in our case, we went up market, like 15K a month retainers, not from the get go, but like eventually. And so we always had a nice, profit margin so we were able to save money to put towards a new business when the time was right. So when I was tired of being a consultant and running a consulting business, which is also a slow growth business because it's very
Mhm.
people heavy, it's like lots of cost involved. Then starting the e-learning business was like a natural progression because like we had a popular blog and an email list of more than 100,000 people, but only like 1% could afford our agency. So like,
Yeah.
how can we monetize everybody else in our email list?
So
It's like
hang on. I want to ask you questions here. So timeline of the agency. When did you start the agency? What year?
2011.
2011. And when did you start the blog? When did that like?
Well, I actually in the beginning it was just a blog.
Okay.
For the first year it was just me blogging alone,
Okay.
and then started generating leads through the blog, and then I set up a
Okay.
team.
So blog, agency, you continue to invest in the blog, and then when did the like idea of not agency? Because I believe you started with the conference, right?
So yeah, conference came first, but conference was more like a marketing branding thing for the agency. It
Okay.
wasn't like its own business.
Not a revenue,
And
not a
then
profit generator.
2016 was when we launched then CXL Institute. So 5 years later.
And what was the blog traffic at that time, roughly? Like, in the
I
nearest
want to
100?
say probably like 200,000 a month, something like this.
Yeah, nice. And a big email list, 100,000 plus, you said?
More or less 100,000. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and that's actually when we met in person, like around that time.
Yeah.
I think 2015 when we met in Austin, or when I moved to Austin. Um, but that's okay, cool. And then when did you launch the e-learning? Just timeline
So
wise.
yeah, so 2016 spring, I probably took a 6 months of prep work before actually bringing it to the market. So I set up a whole new team, hired a basically new staff. So the agency people kept on doing their agency stuff. It was
Hmm.
just me. I decided to pull out from the agency, and there was a lot of fear in the among the agency folks, like, "Whoa, our number one celebrities basically switching away. Can the agency survive this?" There was fear in the air, and I mean, I was still involved for maybe like there was working 1 year of transition period where I was handling
Hmm.
some clients, but I set up its own team for the institute. So it wasn't that the agency people started to, they changed their roles or anything.
Yeah,
So
you just
we
had a
had saved up
dedicated
some
team.
money that we used to hire people.
And did you have a CEO or GM or anyone like running the agency?
So I have, for the agency, I have two co-founders.
Okay,
So one of the co-founders basically then took over from me to be the head of the agency.
got it. And then did the co-founders, given that you're still equity holder, did they get equity in the CXL e-learning?
Yes.
Okay.
So we started it as a subsidiary, as a daughter company.
Yeah.
So it's owned 100% owned by the agency, because the agency
And
put up all the money for it, funded it, for the first basically year.
okay, so 2016 launched the conference as a marketing strategy, a marketing way for the agency. Around that, or sorry, 2015. Did you say the
20 conference was like 2014.
2014 to promote the agency? You're
Hmm.
saying around that time you had over 200,000 visitors a month, 100,000 plus opt-ins, email opt-ins, and only 1% or less can afford your agency. And
Right.
and then you launched the e-learning in 2016. And what percent of the people on your email list, or again, like rough estimates are totally fine. Like what percent, was it more than 1% could afford or would be willing to buy the e-learning now that you had a brand for education
Mm.
of conferences?
So we had hoped that a lot will buy it. So when we first launched May 2016, our first month we did like 25,000 in revenue, which was less than I had hoped, but it was down hill from there. So like the next month in June we made like 15,000, and then in July we made like 12,000, and in August we made 10,000. So it was like actually going down. I was like,
Oh no.
shit.
Yeah.
And then basically we figured out, as if we keep doing it the way we launched it, we're going to run out of money and we have to shut it down. We were 1 month away from actually depleting our cash reserves, and so I was already in my mind preparing the speech, what I'm going to tell the team when I'm letting them go. And so time was for radical change, so we changed up a lot of things, and those radical changes meant that in September 2016 there was breakeven and profit ever since after that.
Nice. And why do you think that happened? Like what that 6 month period, what was it? Pricing? Was it too expensive? Was it like adoption? What was
Hmm.
the issue? Could you pinpoint now that it's
So
4 years later?
three key issues. So one was that we launched it as a subscription product, and it had only one training program in there, conversion optimization training program. So people actually finished it and then they churned because like there's nothing else to consume.
Yeah.
Legit reason. So that was one. Two, we thought that the people who are going to sign up for this are going to be small businesses, mom and pop type of shops who can't afford the agency. But we were wrong. So when we did churn analysis of like who are the companies churning and who are like retaining, and there was only one difference between the two groups, and it was the size of the company. So we learned that it's actually the big companies that didn't churn and small companies churned, Because for small companies, I mean, A, they don't have money. They're counting every penny. B, they're not thinking long term or investing in their employees and things like that. Whereas in big companies, they think very long term strategic. They want to invest in their employees. Employee retention is critically important, and they have money. And so when we realized that, we basically tripled our pricing, changed our messaging, because at first it was like, oh, it's for small business. Now it's like, no, this is for like legit businesses, and we broadened our product range. So we started adding more training products into our subscription offering, and so the combination of those three made it work.
And when did the e-learning become self-sufficient, where you didn't need to pull any revenue profits from the Conversion Institute or the
so
agency?
it was the end of 2016. So like October 2016 was like when we achieved break even, and so agency didn't need to put in any more money, and then we started to make profit month over month, and now it's much more profitable than the agency today.
Nice, yeah. Your costs are to deploy a new course is fraction of what it would be to take on and service a client, right?
Exactly right. Yeah.
When did you pass $1 million in annual revenue at the or run rate of $1 million?
So 2017. So our first full year of business, we did like 990,000 or something in revenue.
Nice.
So fairly quickly, yeah.
Yeah. Like in the 18-month period, 6 months was like 7 months were like product market fit, like pricing, figuring out, because like when you said the wrong customer, I'm like, oh yeah, product market fit. That's exactly the problem. Like
exactly.
You've like got the wrong customer, which obviously makes sense. Everything after that doesn't work. And then once you got that fixed by like end of 2016, it took a year roughly to get to a little under $1 million. And then that's fast forward to 2000, roughly started 2018. What happened between 18 and 2020? Like obviously there's rebranding. I think at some point you rebranded the business from Conversion XL to CXL, right?
Yeah. So when we launched the agency, it was Conversion XL, and then it was Conversion XL Institute, and our conference was Conversion XL Live. These are just mouthfuls, just really long things to say. So people themselves started to abbreviate, say CXL instead of Conversion XL, and so we just went with it.
Nice.
Big things that happened was that on the e-learning side is that we really ramped up content production. So we started to release a new course every 2 weeks. So 2 new courses a month, to really always have new things to offer. And we created we used to sell everything a la carte. Every course you could buy a la carte for one-off. And so we did away with that and went in subscription only. So it's kind of like Netflix, right? So we're adding new content, but so you pay for all access pass.
Nice. I have to tell you, as a customer, I think I've been a paying customer. I think you gave me the friend discount for a few years, and then I became a paying customer, I think sometime last year. And like it's the best investment. I think it's a couple $100 a month, if that. I started with $1, which is awesome. Like I was like, I'm gonna go take this myself. If I get value from this, if I learn something new, I'm gonna give it to my team. And I think most bang for your buck, right? Like two things a month is faster than a human being can consume and apply, right? Like
totally
with a full-time job. So kudos on that. So you bought a I don't want to like skip over this. You bought a 3-letter domain. Was that expensive?
Actually, it was surprisingly cheap. I think in the end we paid like $47,000 for it.
Wow! Holy crap!
Yeah,
that's an asset right there.
Yeah, it was a long negotiation period where it was owned by somebody in China. So we tried to buy it for many years, and we often sent emails to the domain owner. We never got a response until we hired a Chinese domain broker who got a response for us in one day and did all the middleman negotiation for us. So they started off at like some 100,000 or something, and then we negotiated it down.
Nice. That's probably one of the cheapest 3-letter domains. I mean, it doesn't mean anything to someone else, right? Like, what the heck is that? But it's your brand, so that's awesome.
Totally.
So this is, I want to put a fork in your history. 2016 is when I went to your conference, and I started an underground conference in your
Oh
conference
yeah.
called CXL Underground, which was like 8 or 9 marketers who would not go to your sessions all the time, but talk to the speakers afterwards and rope them in to the bar next door. So, anyways, I just want to inject myself in your company history. But let's keep going. So, 2018, so you've got the pricing down. When did you start to like spin off the brand of the or rebrand the agency?
So as the institute started growing, we needed to. It's always difficult when you have two things to sell. So, and their target audiences or the problems they solve don't really overlap. Well, there's a minor overlap because it's kind of like marketing, but it was difficult. So on the homepage, like, oh, are you here for services or learning? And over time, some people knew us for one thing, and some people knew us for the other thing, and was not aware that we do both. And we learned that it's very hard to stand for two things in somebody's mind. So we came to realize that we also we need to separate the brands. Also, in case we want to include, both companies are bootstrap or customer funded. So in case we want to include additional capital or have an exit down the line, selling it as a bundle is not really a thing. Like
Yeah.
somebody would want only one part of it because they're separate businesses and behind the scenes separate teams, also separate legal entities. Like behind the scenes, it was all very different companies. And so when assessing which one is easier to spin off, and meaning that whoever stays at CXL keeps the blog, keeps the email list, and so on and so forth, then we decided that it's easier for the agency actually to spin off because the e-learning business is more mainstream. It's more accessible. As you said,
Mm-hmm.
subscriptions start from a couple of $100 a month compared to agency services are like 20,000 a month. So
Yeah.
big difference there.
Nice. And then so that was 2019.
So actually, we spun it off at the end just a couple of weeks ago now. So end of
Oh, wow.
2020 here.
Wow.
So it took a long time to prepare for this and figure out what's the new brand and all that stuff, the prep work. But yeah, now Spiro is its own, Spiro.com.
9-year transition. Wow, holy crap. 9 years.
Mhm.
Oh, 10, 2011, right? So okay, when did you launch the SaaS company? So there's a SaaS company, Wynter with a Y, right?
Wynter with a Y, yes, exactly. So at CXL, the e-learning business, for every course that we have a sales page, which is copy heavy because it's not a standardized product and it's fairly expensive compared to in the e-learning realm. And then so we have like 50 plus sales pages. Then we have landing pages for PPC, webinar landing pages, etc. And my goal is to make more money, obviously, and I make more money by improving the conversion rate on those landing pages. Since they're very copy heavy, the way to increase the conversion rate is to improve the copy. And so I was like, well, okay, in order to improve the copy, I need to know what's wrong with the copy. And there I started to look for a tool that could help me with this. And I found that there's nothing like this out there. But I did find a lot of people with the exact same problem. And then it was like, eureka.
Nice.
So I'm going to solve this problem on my own. And again, since now I had two companies that are with pretty generous profit margins, the agency and the e-learning business, using that money, put together basically again a new team to start working on this SaaS product. It took us about 1 year before we actually launched it publicly, like brought out the beta version spring this year, May 2020. And we launched it as copy testing and like maybe 2 months ago, rebranded as Wynter.
Okay. So copy testing rebranded to Wynter. And what does who's the customer? Marketing people and anyone who really like it's a landing page software focused on heavy messaging related.
It's not
things,
like
right?
landing page. It's more like it's your message, analyzing your messaging. So at mailshake.com, I'm not sure what are you exactly saying there, But so you're selling to what, like VP sales type of people?
We have more of a bottoms up approach, like sales, individual sales rep, and then kind of
Okay,
up market.
sales
Yeah.
reps, account executives, and so on, SDRs.
Yep.
Okay, so when SDRs land on your mailshake.com website, how do you know which of the things that you say really hit it home? They're like, oh yeah, that's what I want, and what's like, meh, I don't really care about that.
No
So
clue.
that's what we're solving for. Like we're
Fair
going to
enough.
tell you exactly what parts of your messaging is really resonating, and what's like kind of like I don't care about this, or even worse, actually turning off. Like I don't care about this shit. So that's what we're telling you. So most people use it on their homepage, which is their main place to communicate the brand and the product. Obviously, you can use it on landing pages and a bunch of other pages as well, but that's the key use case.
Okay. And so I'm looking at the site now. And by the way, I'm going to go, like, you've just got a customer. So thank you for explaining that. I've been meaning to talk to you about this. So, but you don't have a recurring subscription, is that correct? Or is there recurring subscription
Currently,
behind the
not
scenes?
yet. Yeah, so it's on a product backlog, but how it is with product development. Like you can't build everything; you need to prioritize. So we've been prioritizing features to add value to the customer first, and so we charge per test, and also we want to see what is the natural frequency. Like if it's not a
Hmm.
subscription, every time you pay per test, how often do they buy? It's also interesting for us to observe what is the natural
Interesting.
behavior here.
Yeah, because you can put together a product, you can understand it and put together plans based off of early
Exactly,
users and
based on
early
the
usage.
usage and how people think of it. So we're probably launching the subscription plans in February or something. Next release is still on focusing on onboarding stuff, but yeah, it's coming.
Nice. And I see you have a tester side too, right? So it's kind of a two-sided
Exactly, it's basically a
marketplace almost.
platform.
Yeah.
So when you think about tools like Usability Hub or UserTesting.com or one of those all these user testing tools, where do they get their testers from? They are overwhelmingly getting them from MTurk, Amazon Mechanical Turk,
Yeah.
which is very low quality panels, essentially. So we used the MTurk panels to test. So we had a customer who was selling AI for organic traffic, and so we showed it to MTurk panel, and they get feedback on the messaging, and they're like, what does the organic food have to do with traffic on the streets? Like just not understanding what is organic traffic. So that's the MTurk panel. That's what most companies are selling you when they offer
Yeah.
panels. And so we quickly realized that we need to build our own panels. That's our moat. And actually, we've been using CXL's email list to recruit the panel from. And so
Nice.
we match everybody to their LinkedIn title. So like if you want the panel of SDRs, we'll give you a panel of SDRs, basically.
Got it. And I was just going to ask you, do you use the CXL email list to promote the product as well?
In the beginning, we did, yeah. So several product launch every time. I guess now also, not like every week or something, but occasionally we put it in the newsletter, like, oh, Winter has this product release, or so
Yeah.
it's like
It's
a
kind of a little bit of a
symbiosis.
passive. Yeah. And so that's awesome that you've pretty much took a blog in 2011 and turned it into an agency and turned the blog and the agency into a conference, well, into e-learning. And you've taken all and continue to build a conference, you continue to build
Mhm.
this, and you turn it into SaaS and a
Right.
platform. And using this core audience that continues to grow. Where 2020, what's the traffic like at CXL?
Yeah, we're probably just under 300,000 a month, so it's not like crazy town traffic.
Yeah,
As you know, the SEO competition is pretty
pretty
insane.
fierce. Yeah.
And I only have two full-time content people. It's not like I have a massive content team. Um, yeah, so what content marketing is still fueling most of our growth. I mean, we do paid as well, and
Yeah.
on the agencies, a lot of referrals.
Yeah. Word of mouth. I mean, you guys have been in business for 10 years, so you've got, or 8 years,
Totally.
9 years, whatever. Okay, cool.
Exactly.
That's
Plus,
awesome.
I've been also, building my own personal brand. So personal brand, like is the case with you, I'm sure, like really helps all the companies that you're involved with. Some
Yeah.
people like you, and that's why they buy your, you know, some people like you, that's why they buy Mailchimp over like Outreach or something. So it
Right.
goes a
Yeah.
long way. So I'm very deliberate about building that brand.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. I think a lot of times people underestimate that, or when you have that, you underestimate what you can do with it, which you've been continuing to, not too often, leverage to launch new things, which is awesome. What's next?
What's next? Well, so if you've been following me on social, I've been ranting about like differentiation for the last 2 years or so, and it really stems from the root problem that CXL as an e-learning company is not sufficiently differentiated. Because like if you want to distill it, it's still a bunch of videos. Yes, it's in depth and it's the best instructors, but it's video courses, and anybody can do video courses these days. It's very easy, right? There's no there's no moat, and there is a lot of competition, like these single creators, just taking their, I don't know, phone and filming themselves, and then there's a course. And then there are big boys, your LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, Udacity, etc. So the e-learning competition is actually very, very tough. And so over the last, now 4 years of running the e-learning business, I've learned many things that are wrong with e-learning the way it is. And so 2021 spring, we have a major launch coming up, and CXL will be a very differentiated company. So basically, three things that I've learned that are wrong with the e-learning business. One is that most people don't finish the course they started, and it's because there's no accountability. Like if you go to college, your mom expects you to graduate. If you take an online course, nobody cares. Or if you get busy, you're at work, your manager asks you, hey, did you do this, this, this? They don't ask you, did you take this course?
Yeah.
And so you're always pressured to ship things and get results, not to learn. And so you drop learning. So, and why people start a course? They start a course because they have a task at hand. Hey, I need to, I don't know, build a high converting landing page. I need to set up my marketing automation. They're not exactly sure how to go about it. So it's like, oh, I
Yeah.
need to take a course. I need to educate myself. So they usually want one granular aspect. So they want how to set up event tracking in Google Analytics, but then the Google Analytics courses is like 9 hours, everything about Google Analytics. And it's like, well, I don't really need the whole 9 hours. And also, let's say you buy that Google Analytics course. If you're, a seasoned marketer, you already know half the stuff in it. And so you get easily bored.
Mm-hmm.
So taking these insights, we've basically reimagined what e-learning should be like. And so it's basically, the approach is task-based learning. And task-based learning, instead of long ass courses that take hours and teach you everything, we teach you how to do one specific task, and all in a checklist format. So how to set up event tracking in 10 steps. And it's a checklist. First do this, then that, and so on and so forth. So we're mapping out every single task a marketer can do, and these are tens of thousands of tasks, and turning them into 10-step playbooks, which are all checklists. Like the book Checklist Manifesto talks about things like people used to die in surgeries, until they implemented checklists at the hospitals.
Yeah.
Or planes used to fall down from the sky until they implemented checklists on the planes. Like checklists work.
Yeah.
And now imagine you're hiring two newbies, brand new marketers, fresh, out of college or something. And you say, hey, do, I don't know, link building outreach for me. Well, how do I do that? Now you can just give them the playbook. Here's 10-step playbook how to do link building outreach. And so you can hire VAs from the Philippines, or you can hire, basically, there's how to do everything in a playbook. So that's the future of basically CXL.
Love it. Love it. You're getting like you're making this thing, the course, from like my understanding and repeating back to you, is more practical. And like I need to go learn, like, you know, like Neo learning kung fu in the Matrix, right? Like it's plugged in. Like I know kung fu. It's like I need to go learn this thing, and I just now I know the I don't know kung fu, but
Exactly.
I
So
can
you're
I can kick
combining,
somebody, right? Yeah,
yeah, learning and doing. So it's like you learn for 5 minutes and you implement in the next 5 minutes.
yeah,
There's no like I study for 9 months and then
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So
Although
it's like
that's nice.
yeah.
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you so much for your transparency, your candor, and just the journey. It's awesome to see. I can't wait for the next what you do the next 10 years of CXL. I can imagine. My prediction is you're going to launch like 10 more companies out of this thing.
Thanks, Susan.
All right, Pep. So thanks for the story. That was awesome to hear kind of the journey over the last 10 years from blog to core activities that generate revenue, conference conversion, the conference, the agency, the winter games, and the e-learning. Amazing to build 4 companies out of just something that you're passionate about. But if you had to do this all over again and start over, or how would you go about doing things differently? Like what like really did you learn, or how would you go about to getting to building the same business, but yeah.
So things that have worked out really well for me that I would definitely repeat is focus on building an audience personally for myself and also for the business. So content marketing. And nowadays, when I started with content marketing was like blogging. Now, of course, it's all the mediums. And so you need to be in all the mediums. But your content marketing and the business that you start, you need to be clearly differentiated, be like very different from the rest to really stand out from the noise. Like if I were to start an e-learning business today and it was just a video courses on topic X, it would be very hard to win that game. So bake the differentiation into your DNA from the get-go. Be like clearly, obviously different from what's out there. And same for content marketing. If you want to start writing blog posts or producing videos on topics that have been written to death, like how to write a good headline. I mean, nobody needs another blog article on how to write a good headline. Like it's been written to death. You need to do something completely different. And it's very hard. Obviously, it's very hard. So, but that's your mode. If you do things where the barrier of entry is high, it's not easy to replicate you. I mean, that's your mode and that's your, foundation for success.
Love it, love it. That's so true. I think the every year that goes by, it's gotten easier and easier to build pretty much anything on the internet, right? Like
Right.
I remember I was talking to Heath and Shaw and how they built Crazy Egg, and there was no Stripe at the time, so they don't have a recurring platform to take money. They have to actually go to like not the banks. There's checkout authorize.net, and then there's you have to build a recurring subscription platform, and like pretty much it took like 6 months to code what Stripe gives you away for free.
Right, right.
And so the barrier to entry is lower, but that means you have to think harder about your moat differentiating and all the
Exactly.
things that
'Cause
make you better. Yeah,
competition is just so much like, I mean, look at the Martech landscape by Scott Brinker. I mean,
yeah,
since 2016, it has doubled the ecosystem. It's like crazy.
crazy. Mailshake has 83 competitors. We started already with like 30, right? And 83, and like my bet is by the time we sell this thing, or by the time we get to where we want to go, there'll be another 50 or 60, right? Um,
Exactly, yeah.
but
And
awesome. Yeah,
so, yeah,
thank you
building
for.
for that mental availability. Like if somebody is ready to purchase something to solve a problem, do they have mental availability for you? Like the trigger, whatever triggers that purchasing thought, are you available in their mind? Like usually it's the
Yeah,
category leaders that, oh, I think of Salesforce for
yeah,
CRM. But
yeah.
like, so if you're exactly like Salesforce, but maybe cheaper, you will never get that mental availability. You need to, be different.
Right. Well, became Salesforce as cheaper, got that already, right? But
Yeah.
like that's about it. There's no like second Salesforce but cheaper option. They've already milked that. And one thing you mentioned I want to just pinpoint is, so you said create something unique, or how to figure out how to stand out, and really like that, those two things. But you also said a moat, right? And I think building a moat requires these two factors, or some version of it. But what else is in building a moat, right? Like your email list, your traffic, like your personal brand, like those are things people can't take from you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a really moats, of course, is a long, complicated topic, and you can have all kinds of moats. Is a really great book I recommend the viewers to read. It's Seven Powers by Hamilton Helmer. But
Yeah,
yeah, so the way I think of simplified version to think about moats is like anything that they can't just copy, you know. And so in e-learning, if you cannot compete on the volume of courses, or you cannot compete on the topics. Everybody has the same topics. You cannot compete on, how in depth they are, because it's very easy to film a more in depth course, So that's not where your moats are. If you start a podcast, and if you do an interview podcast, you have no moat because everybody has the same guest as you have.
yeah,
So either you were
absolutely.
the first, you're Andrew Warner, or you're, one of those interview guys, or you do a completely new format of podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that Seven Powers book. I want to just give everybody the four big things. Everyone should read it. If you're going to build a business in 2020 or at all ever, read that book first. And then think about build up all your ideas, read that book, and then scrap all your ideas, and one or two of them may work out. But building about four things: building a brand, switching costs, meaning like Salesforce switching costs is why they have high retention rates. Like to move away from that product, even though everyone I hear hates it, they just can't move away because like switching costs requires like cutting you off your arm. Network effect, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
radical network, meaning like network effect is obviously like the Dropboxes of the world, the Microsofts, but like what is the 2021 version network effect? Like Mr. Mr. Beats just launched like virtual delivery
Right.
of burgers, right? He launched a burger restaurant with no freaking locations. There's just dark kitchens, and he delivers food in a bag. Like it could just be like whoever made this burger, but like you wouldn't buy a burger from a random person on the street, or maybe, depends on the time of the day, 2 a.m. Maybe the answer is a little different, but like that is a network effect, right? He launches YouTube channel and all that stuff. And then the fourth thing is cost advantages, right? You mentioned like Salesforce, but cheaper. That works once, right? What are the cost advantages you can do? So,
Yeah. Yeah, and
anyways,
obviously you don't need to have all of these modes. One might be enough. If you have
yep,
two, great. Yeah.
yep, absolutely. But the folks that do have like the more you have, the more defensible you are, right? And unfortunately, what you describe is if you're a podcaster, your podcast isn't the moat anymore. It used to be when Andrew Warner started podcasting. Like no one was willing to put in the work on this
Hmm.
unknown format. But now everybody and their mom has a podcast, right? Like it's really easy. That your product is not the moat anymore. You got to figure it out.
Totally. And like Basecamp founders, like they are very deliberate about building their personal brand, because like is Basecamp the best project management tool? No, I mean it doesn't have
No,
the most features, or like, I
anything, yeah.
mean, frankly, I don't know why anybody would use it. But like, if you love the outspoken founders, who are not afraid to pick a fight with Apple and so on, like, that you can't copy that.
Yeah. I mean, and their beliefs, right? Like it's like I use Basecamp at Web Profits. I hate it, I think we use Basecamp 3, but it's like it's not the best. It's not the like it's not the most whatever, right? But it's again, the moat for me is like now all of our clients use it, like the network effect, and I can't take it off because that's how we communicate with our clients. And so I don't want to take our like 70 something, 80 something clients that we've got off of that company because I want a better software. Like
Yeah.
you have to cut my arm off for me to want to do that because, whatever. But anyways, Pep, this is awesome. Thank you for our virtual beers. Next time we'll actually have a physical beer and drink. But And until next time, man, thank you.
Cheers.